Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to do a quick review on a couple of Avian-X turkey decoys. So in the past, we never really used decoys all that much. We always had the right property and the right techniques that just seemed to work really well. But recently, with changes in the population, just not always seeing the birds in the spots we used to, we've had to kind of switch up our tactics a little bit, and that's led to us having to kind of get into decoys. So after doing a bunch of research, talking it over with people, I found that the Avian-X decoys are some of the best on the market, and it's what a lot of people really swear by, so I had to go out and get a couple. So before we see the decoys, the first thing I want to show you is the bag that they come in. It's actually a really slick little bag. It's a nice muted tone. It's got the sling on it, so you can throw it over your shoulder. That way, if you have multiple decoys, it makes it really easy to carry. And the other thing I really like about this bag is that I'm not a turkey vest guy. I've just never really liked having the turkey vest on. I don't know what it is. I just don't like it. So when it comes time to go and sit on the ground, I usually just bring one of these things. Well, you can see the glaring problem. It's blaze orange, right? I don't need a new one. It works just fine, but it's blaze orange, and you can't have that in the turkey woods. So it works really well to just throw that in your bag with your hen decoy, and it fits in there just fine, covers it all up, and so I can actually just sit on this after I put my decoys out. Makes it easy to carry in and out, and just kind of gives you another option if you're like me and you don't really like to hunt with a turkey vest, but you still need something to sit on. Even if it's not camouflage, you can still make it work by using the bag. I think it's just a cool little added bonus to it all. So now for the decoys themselves, here we have the breeder hen decoy. The first thing you'll notice is it's very realistic looking. The head looks very realistic. Obviously all of the feathers, the paint, the details and the outline, it all looks really good. It looks like a real bird, especially when it's out in the field. They even have the printed legs here, so it looks like a real turkey leg. You don't really see that on a lot of decoys, so it's definitely on the higher end of decoys. So these decoys are actually inflatable, so it's almost like a basketball or a football or something. There's a little valve down here, you blow it up, and then you shut it closed, and it actually stays filled with air, so it doesn't get the weird creases in it. That's something we had in the past with previous decoys that were on the lower end. You would see just like weird shapes because they'd get kind of bent up. They didn't really retain air, but these stay inflated really nicely, so they keep their full shape, and it just adds to the realism. And then of course you need something to set the decoy on, so it comes with a little stand here. It's collapsible. It's almost like a tent or like a hunting blind with that same little string in there. Folds up, that goes in the ground, decoy rests on that, and it works pretty slick. It folds up nicely, doesn't take up a lot of space in there. Ultimately, it's just a good little system for putting your decoys on. And then here we have the quarter strut Jake. Now, this guy is definitely a little bit bigger, but that's good because, again, that adds to the realism. In the wild, Jakes are going to be bigger than most hens. You can see the head, it's a little bit of a different color than the hen was, which is also good because hens have different colored heads than Jakes and Toms do. You see the short little beard here. It's nice because, I mean, this material is still, you could cut it a little bit shorter if you wanted to go for that shorter look. It does have a band around it to hold it all together. You could take that off if you wanted to, so there's some options there. But once again, very lifelike, very realistic. And similar to the hen in that way, right? The details on it, the paint on it looks really good. And once again, it's inflatable. It's the same system, the same leg system to be able to support it. So it's obviously a very similar decoy, but I've found that if you have the two decoys together, it really does give you a lot of options. So as much as I love the inflatability factor of these decoys, one of their other best features is that you can actually deflate them and then blow them back up. So if you really need storage space, whether it's in your vehicle or when you're carrying it out in the woods, you can deflate the decoy and then blow it back up. It's fairly quick and easy, and it just makes it that much easier. It gives you another option if carrying the full-size decoy, even in the bag, still isn't really something you want to put up with. So overall, when it comes to a product like this and whether or not somebody should buy it, you're probably going to be looking at two things. One, is it realistic? And two, is it going to work? So to answer the first question, it's very realistic. These are some of the best looking decoys that I've seen. Like I said, especially when we put them out, 30 yards out from us, they look exactly like turkeys. It's one of those, like if you fell asleep in the woods and you woke up, you'd be a little bit freaked out for a second because you'd think it's real birds. I mean, they really look good. The feathers really shimmer in the sun, which is nice. You see that on real birds out in the wild as well. They kind of have a certain shine to them when the sun is shining. And so overall, I would say these are both very, very realistic looking, very lifelike decoys. They are advertised as being about 15% smaller than a regular jake or hen. And they do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, it makes it a little bit easier to carry around. And two, it's going to maybe make the jake look a little bit undersized, which could potentially entice a tom even more to come in and beat him up, knowing that he might be a weaker target. So the second question, will it work? The answer is yes, it will work. Most decoys will, in fact. Decoys in general are a very, very good tactic. It's almost something that you have to have. We've had many, many experiences where we don't put a decoy out, and then you start calling and you get a tom and he's coming in hot, and he gets to 60 yards and then he hangs up and he won't come in. Why? Because he hears a bird, but he can't see the bird. So he knows something is up. He knows there should be a bird there, but he can't see it. So it just freaks him out. He doesn't know what's going on, and then he's going to run off. So you have to give him something to look at to match what they're hearing, and decoys can be probably your best tool to do that. Now, you can use cheaper decoys that don't look quite as realistic, and plenty of people have, and it's worked for plenty of people. So it's not entirely a bad option. But these birds are pretty smart, and ultimately you get what you pay for, right? You're going to see with a cheaper decoy, a lot of birds still hang up, look at that decoy, and know something's off, that doesn't look like a real bird, and they're going to run off. But the more realistic you can make it look, the closer to the real thing, the higher your chances are going to be of actually being able to harvest that tom. So to really finish it all off and finalize that question of does it work, I'm going to share a little bit of information that we gathered on one of our recent podcast episodes where we had Dave Constantine as a guest. So Dave is a world-class 14-time national champion turkey call carver. He carves turkey calls, decorative turkey calls, and he carves basically all kinds of stuff. He does really, really incredible work. If you haven't heard of him before, you should definitely check him out. But he's one of the best in the business, and he got to be the best not only for his carving skills, but also for his hunting. He knows how to hunt these birds, and he shared some information with us. So he said, in the first couple weeks of the season, you don't want to use a hen decoy. That's why I've got that one down. I've got the jake here. You don't want to use the hen. And he said the reason for this is because in the earlier weeks, the hens have been with that same flock for the whole winter. So they basically know each hen that's within that flock. And now all of a sudden you introduce a hen that they're not familiar with, that's going to set up some red flags, and you don't want that. So in the first couple weeks of the season, you don't use a hen decoy. And then as you get later on into the season, you can start to use a hen and a jake, or just a hen by herself, and those things can be very enticing to gobblers for different reasons. So if you want more information on that, you should definitely go check out our podcast, and specifically our episode with Dave Constantine. But as far as these decoys go, really, I can't recommend them enough. Once again, you get what you pay for. They're on the pricier side of things. You could go with cheaper decoys. I don't think you should avoid decoys altogether. If you don't have any, you should definitely look at getting some. I would recommend the jake and the hen. There's a lot of combinations you can go with these two birds, and it's a lot of different things that you can present to a gobbler. And if you have these two decoys, you're pretty much set. You don't really need too much more than that. Now, whether you go with more of a premium brand like these Avian-X's, or if you go with something a little bit cheaper, that's really up to you. All I can say is this is not something that I would skimp out on. The more expensive brands really are worth the money. They look so much better. It really does look like a real turkey. And honestly, I've been very happy with this purchase. I can't recommend it enough. With that said, that is going to conclude today's review. If you guys enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. And if you want to see more of our content, please consider subscribing to our channel. We have a bunch of good turkey hunting content from the past couple of years. And one of the videos that we had this year was pretty amazing. You'll definitely know it when you see the thumbnail. Go check that one out. And as always, guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.